Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Next to None. I am super excited about today's guest. Andrea Crislip is an incredible businesswoman, and I'm excited for everyone to be able to learn from her. Let me just share her bio with you. Andrea is a multi-unit business owner, community leader, and former speech language pathologist turned entrepreneur. After building and running her own therapy practice for a decade, she made a bold pivot into the home services industry, acquiring the Maids of St. Charles County in 2018 and expanding into St. Louis in 2023. Today, Andrea leads a high-performing people-first organization known for its strong culture, exceptional service, and consistent growth. Her leadership has earned multiple industry and national recognitions, and she's passionate about developing people and building businesses that truly make an impact. She's actively involved in her community, serves on multiple leadership boards, and is a proud mom of three. Andrea brings a real and honest perspective on what it takes to grow, lead, and thrive, both in business and in life. Well, welcome, Andrea. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amy.
I'm excited to get
Um,
into this conversation.
yes, me too.
So tell us a little bit about the maids. Tell us what that exactly that is. Hopefully everybody gets it by the name, but just give us a little bit of information about it.
Sure. So the Maids is a residential cleaning franchise. We specialize in running teams for our cleaning, and each team consists of 3 to 4 cleaners. And we do a full top to bottom clean in people's house every time. And that's really what sets us apart from other cleaning businesses, is that we like to do a full detail clean every time, not just, your surfaces and quick cleans. And we're also very open to, customizing plans to whatever specifically meets the homeowner's need.
So do you guys have a storefront somewhere, or is it just like you are the master of all the scheduling?
No, I do. We have an office in O'Fallon, Missouri, and that one is in a storefront. That's been the original location of that office from day one. And then in St. Louis, we have kind of a what do they call it? Like a mixed use kind of space. And that location often, operates out of there.
Yeah. Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I heard that you have, and I did just read about this, but you had like a national recognition. I don't remember where you ranked, but someone shared that with me, and I was like, that's incredible.
Yeah. Well, I guess, are you talking about just kind of where I rank in terms of franchisees in the system?
Hmm.
Yeah. So I'm in it changes on any given day, but currently I sit around number 16 or 17 in terms of total revenue.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So how many franchises are there? Are they national? Are they like global?
Yeah, well, national in the sense that the majority of them are in the United States, but there's are some locations in Canada. Uh,
Awesome.
so that's where the international comes from. But yeah,
Hey,
I
it still is
believe
international.
that's right. Yep. I believe I want to say, I don't know, 100, I think there's like 125 or 6 franchisees, but there's more locations than that. So
That's incredible. Congratulations on that.
thanks.
So, what got you into that? Like, you went from speech pathologist to owning a franchise.
I know. Um, so, gosh, I don't know. So I own my own business for speech therapy. And I did that because I was really passionate about the kids that I served and was working in the schools and just really ran into a lot of barriers in terms of what I could do to service the children. And I wanted to do what I knew was right for them from, a professional research-based background, not just what, the school district was willing to pay for. So I did that for like 10 years and it was great. It served my family well in terms of giving me a flexible schedule and being able to, still supplement our income. And then in the winter of 2018, really like in January, my husband came to me and he was like, I think we need to start another business just for like a safety net for our family. And because he worked in the stock market at the time and it always made him kind of nervous. So we started researching and we looked at the possibility of growing my current speech therapy business. But in order to do that at the time, it, would have required getting into the red tape again, having to accept insurance and, go through a lot of those things. And it was just really against what I had set out to do initially, kind of against my core values with the whole process. So I wasn't comfortable doing that. So we started looking at other businesses and, um, looked at franchises and kind of evaluated a few different industries, and we ended up with the Maids. Um,
That's awesome.
my
There wasn't any particular thing about the maids or just the maids.
No, it was for sure. So my dad was a Burger King franchisee,
Oh, okay.
and so we had a lot of insight. At that point, he wasn't anymore, but he was for I don't know 20 years or so. So we had a lot of insight into franchise systems and kind of what we wanted out of one. And the Maids proved that they had a great support in terms of helping you get your business started. It was a lower level of financial entry to get into it, and showed that could eventually have good profit margins. So of course, that's important. But really, it was the support at the time. The business or the system was still owned by the original family that started it. And I loved that. We liked that, they were still very involved. They were very supportive.
Hmm.
It was still really their baby. So those were kind of the big things that sold us. Plus, I did not want to do like my dad and have a restaurant. I did not want to have to worry about employees 24/7. So that was kind of a big key to the puzzle in terms of what kind of business we were looking for.
That's awesome. And you probably never thought that you would own a franchise cleaning homes.
Nope. Not at all. I tell people all the time, yeah, I never thought I would do that. We have 7 to 8 teams running at any one time. So I own like 10 cars just within the business. I'm like, who would have ever thought I would own 10 cars? Like,
Right.
just managing that alone is crazy sometimes.
What are some of the other weird things that you never thought you'd like own or do that you do now?
Yeah, I mean, cars is a big one. I never thought I would own 10 cars. That's kind of a crazy number to me. Um, there's some other things. Um, I don't know. I would have never, I always wanted, liked the idea of having my own business and doing it, but the concept of having 30 plus employees, is not something that I really ever thought I would sit in, which is great. I love it. Well, I love that I'm building something there and building something big with that. It's
Sure.
definitely the hardest part of the business, but but it's exciting.
Do you find that in
Oh,
your
I know another
industry?
one.
Oh, go
Sorry, I
ahead.
know another one. I am an expert vacuum repair person. Also,
Oh,
not
okay.
something I ever thought I would do. I can
Now
take
I
apart a
know.
vacuum, I can diagnose it, take it apart, repair it. Whoever thought, right?
Now
Definitely
I
not a
know where to
skill I have.
go. Now I know where to
Right?
go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't bring my vacuum to you.
Okay.
I probably would just buy a new one.
Yeah.
But for you, it's like a lifeline. So you have to keep your equipment up. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. And they're big, like commercial vacuums. So they're not, $150 off the shelf. So
right.
it's worth doing all the repairs.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's an industry where you have a little bit of a revolving door with employees?
Yeah, to a certain extent. We definitely have, in both offices, a core set of employees that have been there for a while and, are kind of the heart and soul of it. And then you have, kind of this other level that just kind of that part just kind of keeps rotating. You get them in and they go out, and then every once in a while you get one that jumps up into the I'm going to stick here for a while.
Mhm.
So definitely that's big challenge in the
I love
business.
that some of your customers actually video people cleaning their house and they give you a shout out online. I think that's amazing. And
Yeah.
that says like that you guys are really a top-notch company doing things the right way.
Yeah, we love when we get the special shout outs for customers. And you can't be everywhere all the time. And so we don't see the little things that they do, and they do little touches for people all the time. So it's really fun when a customer shares that with us, and then we can recognize them because the girls don't even usually think to be like, oh, we did this for so and so today. They get back and
Yeah.
they're ready to go home.
Something I read yesterday, they were talking about the transition of tips and service in the service industry and
Mhm.
how like the article was talking about how inflated it had become and now that it's trending back down. How do you see
Yeah.
that affecting your business? And I know you don't get them directly. I know a lot of the your employees do, but how do you see that affecting that?
Um, so we're not a big tipping culture, because they are paid a full wage. So, they do get customers that will just give them cash, when they're in their homes or little gifts. We definitely have a lot of little like elderly customers that, we have one that gives them a Coke and a Reese's peanut butter cup every time.
Aw.
I know. And they look forward to it. They're like the Coke house. Um,
Oh,
that did not sound right.
funny. That's awesome. Oh, that's funny. Sorry.
That's
Sorry.
all right. No, it did not sound right. I thought the same thing as soon as it came out of my mouth. Okay. Anyway, the soda house, let's call it that. Um, anyway, back to what I was talking about. So, but so I don't think it really affects us a ton. We don't ask for tips. Like we don't, when people get their charges, we're not like, do you want to give them a tip? We don't ever ask for that or anything.
Right.
So, my hope is, and from what I see, people aren't feeling that pressure, at least for, my customers. I don't know about, other cleaning companies, but we don't try to solicit them directly for them. And what I see, like I said, I don't know about when they just give them cash tips. A lot of times they don't report that to us. But if it comes through on a payment through the office, then those are the ones that we see. And I haven't really seen a change with that yet. We see the
Oh,
most at
good.
holidays. Yeah, we see the most at the holidays, um, because we do ask for customers to send all of those into the office so that we can make sure they're distributed to the correct people. In case somebody was absent when they handed out or something, we want to make
Yeah.
sure, the people that have cleaned their house all year get that gift. So, and typically, even, this past December, we still had a lot of generosity.
That's so awesome. But
Yeah.
from what I see online, you guys aren't cleaning my house. I clean my house, but someday I'm gonna have somebody else clean my house.
Yeah.
But what do you feel like has been the greatest joy for you in entrepreneurship?
Um, I would say there's a couple things. One is building leaders. I love the employees that I have that I've seen them grow and, come into themselves and, establish themselves not only as leaders in my business, but just becoming more secure in their life.
Yeah.
One of my managers, she started cleaning for me, and she's, now my sales and customer service manager. And she was able to buy her first house and she raises two daughters on her own, and just being able to help people get a start on life and to become stable and, know that somebody cares about them and is helping them to build that life. That's definitely one of the most rewarding things for me.
Oh, absolutely. I think that development of the people that work for you is one of the most important things that you can do as a business owner.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are many businesses that don't do that.
Yeah.
But it is to me, it's one of the most important part of it's just because what I do. But it's one of the most important things you can do because if you empower and pour into someone, first of all, you're going to get loyalty from them. Second of all, you're going to see them rise, and when they rise, what happens in their role? They start really elevating that role. And
Yeah.
I just think it's one of the best things business owners can do.
Yeah, I know. I'm always, some people are hard to reach and how hard to get them to, especially in this industry. Um, like, some of the workers, like you said, there's a lot of turnover and you see such potential in some people and you're like, oh, how can I pour into them and get them to grow and, do all these things. And sometimes you miss the mark. But it's great when you can keep giving them skills and keep trying to teach them these things so that they can grow as individuals, not even just into managers, just, into the separate roles that they do for us.
One of the things I hear a lot from business owners is that, well, I don't have time to develop my staff. I don't have time. What would you say to that person?
I just think it's so important to have a positive culture. Um, to me, it's a priority because your business is going to be stronger if you're building stronger people. And to me, as I do that and I get them to take more leadership and more responsibility, it takes some of the smaller things off of my plate because I know that I can trust them and they're, going to be accountable and uphold, my values in my business.
I just did a video. I haven't posted it yet, but I just did a video about there was a statistic, and I'm going to read this to you because I can't remember exactly what the number was. So I don't want to get this wrong. It was something like 32% of employees are not engaged at work. That's a huge number.
Yeah, it
Like
is.
some people might say, oh, well, 70% are. And I'm like, but how much money is being wasted in your business?
Yeah,
Because 32% of your employees are not engaged.
yeah. That's a lot.
It is a lot. What do you
Yeah.
say to that person that's like, eh, they're only 32%?
I mean, to me, that's something that I would want to minimize. That seems like a lot of productivity going out the door,
Mm-hmm.
and that you could, replace those people with stronger people. I know for us, we see, when you have those people that aren't engaged, or sometimes it's not even like not being engaged, but they think their way is better, and they want to do things their way, and they want to you know, not listen to the way that we're asking them to do stuff or the things that we're asking them to do. And it slowly just kind of becomes a cancer in your organization and brings everybody down. And then you can't get new people in that are strong, and it brings your good people
Mm-hmm.
down, and you risk losing your good people. And you just really see the strain on
It's
your
a
business.
domino effect for sure.
Yeah.
I have two clients that I've been working with just this year in the first quarter, and we calculated the other day that they had some challenges with some higher level leaders in the organization, and the total between the two, it was they saved like $300,000. It was a little over $300,000 by investing in developing them. Now, like they hired me, but still, it's an investment.
Yeah.
And like my fee is only a small percentage of that $300,000.
Yeah.
But they've already seen significant changes and things in the organization, all because you don't have to be the one that develops your staff. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I think you're great at it, but you know, you can hire someone to do that. Like if
Yeah.
you feel like there's people that are in that spot, and I mean, like I was kind of blown away by the number because it comes down to like retention, turnover, and business don't always count that and the overall picture of their financial, forecast,
Yeah. I think retention and turnovers, it can be a huge kind of money sucker of your business.
Yeah, it is
Having,
crazy.
yeah, having to spend all that, the money finding somebody new, but then the training and the getting them up to speed and all those things. Like you can, we definitely feel it when we're having to do a lot of hiring and replacing.
Sure.
Can definitely feel that.
Yeah, and just think about the higher level of leadership in different organizations and having to replace those individuals.
Yeah.
Um, it's just I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and they have a sales team member that has moved up into management, but it's not going well. And they were like, I think I might fire them. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
What can you do differently to help them? Ask them questions. You know,
Yeah. How do you
it,
improve it first before
yes.
going to that? Yeah. That
Yes.
was when the St. Louis location, I bought that. That was an existing. So my St. Charles operation, my first one, that I built from the ground up.
Hmm.
But the St. Louis, I bought my neighbor in St. Louis, and that was already an existing business. They were retiring, but it, needed a little TLC. They had been kind of absent for a while, and COVID was really hard on them. And um, that the manager that I say inherited, um, he he just really struggled with following through with my ways, and my systems and stuff. And I worked with him for almost a year. I gave it a really good push, but because I wanted it to work. I
Sure.
didn't want to go in and just wipe the slate clean and start fresh with my people. And um, but I think it's real important to try to work with them and get something built up, at any level, uh, before you just start fresh. You got to give people a chance. You got
Yeah.
to let them know your expectations, teach them what you're wanting, teach them how to do it, and then see how the follow through goes, how the productivity goes, how the
Hmm.
engagement.
So you had a St. Charles location that you had built a culture from scratch,
Yeah.
and then you buy a location from someone else that had a completely, probably a different culture than what you have at your St. Charles. And so now the work is I got to make this culture similar to this. And that takes time. That doesn't just change overnight because, hey, I got these systems and here's a thing and here's a playbook, guys. You got to do it this way.
Right. Yeah. And that was, definitely a challenge. We have a lot of Hispanic workers at that location. And so there's a little bit of a language barrier between me and them. And so that was a little bit of a challenge to try to build that culture when from a different culture, and things
Hmm.
that I was used to doing to support my St. Charles office didn't really speak to them necessarily, and they were not used to being uh, taken care of, I would say, or
Mm,
you know, they were not used to people caring about them as a team, as a set of
person.
employees. Hmm.
Yeah.
And so it definitely has taken us a while. That was a big issue with that manager. He just was not. He wasn't on the same boat as I was in terms of that.
Sure.
Uh, but the woman that I have there now is amazing, and she completely gets it, and really has helped me to convert that culture. And it's still not where I would like for it to be, either one of them. I think it's a definitely an ongoing process that you have to constantly maintain. It's not a set it and forget it.
Yeah. I believe cultures are a living entity and they shift and all the things. And sometimes they're, not going in the right direction. Sometimes they're in the right direction, but I don't think they ever arrive to where anybody wants them to be.
There's different people at different times, and different things going on in the world, different things going on in your business. And I think it's just always something, a fluid thing that we have to reevaluate all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It is it's interesting because people say culture and then they throw some uh you know uh uh values up on the wall and this is our culture. I had a call with a company it's probably a year or two ago and he was like, "Yeah, our team knows the culture." And I was like, "Do they?" He goes, "Well, what do you mean do they?" And I said, "Who talks about culture when you guys meet?" And he's like, "Well, myself and the executives." And I said, "When was the last time you asked one of them what your mission statement is? Or what does one of your core values mean?" I said, "I will probably tell you, I'm pretty 77% sure that your team, not all those people understand as much as you think."
They're just words on a wall.
Exactly. Unless you live them out.
Right.
Like, how are you showing them what the culture is?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I got a question for you.
Okay.
What do you feel like has been the hardest thing that you've done in entrepreneurship across the board? Because you've owned a couple businesses. So what do you feel like has been the hardest thing?
Um, hmm. I think, well, I keep going back to it, but the employees, that's an easy answer, to say that they're the hardest thing. Learning to balance that with hiring and the culture and the training and everything
Hmm.
that we've been talking about. That's definitely a big one. Beyond that, if I would just say, like, in terms of running a business, it's also a delicate balance of obtaining and retaining customers, whether I
Mm.
was in speech therapy or in this business. Um, yeah, constantly, it's just another thing on guard with, am I reaching the right people in my advertising? Are the right customers coming to us? How do we make sure that they're happy and never leave us? This business more so than my speech therapy business, because honestly, in that, I wanted to help the kids get better and they didn't need me anymore, right?
Hmm.
That's the goal, is that you graduate them. Um, but in this business, we want them to feel so taken care of and so happy with their services that they don't want to leave.
Yeah, you don't want them to graduate.
Right. I don't want them to graduate. Yeah. But,
So,
that's another big part of the puzzle, is that
sure.
acquisition and retention of customers.
It's interesting because the black and white stuff is easy. It doesn't always feel easy, but it compared to the people side of things, it's just a totally different, because black and white, you can look at a financial report and be like, okay, that makes sense. But there's also another complex layer to that, because like, well, why are our sales down, or why is this here? And those always point back to people.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's a constant, I think something that I've learned with having this business and being, this is such a bigger business than when I had my own, little private speech business, is every time I'm like, oh, wow, our revenue is so far up. And then you think that your bottom line should be so far up, but all the pieces that go into it, and you're like, man, how do I refine all that to make sure that, the top line and the bottom line are trending? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what advice do you have for women who are considering starting a business?
Um, I would say, one, do your research and know what you're getting into. What kind of time commitment is it going to require out of you? I know I way underestimated that in the beginning. The time commitment and emotional commitment
Mm,
it takes. I think you need to have realistic expectations of that. And really then just be open to learning and growing. Just because your industry and think that you can make a business out of that and, not work for somebody else, you really have to, keep learning and growing into how to be a business owner.
yeah. It's interesting. I've talked to many women, obviously, and um, the biggest challenge that I've heard from a lot of women is just like, and I don't think there's balance in life, but I think that there's like, there's some weeks that I work 7 days a week because there's things I got to get done by a certain time frame or this, that, or the other. But then there's other weeks that I'm just like, you know what? I'm done at 2 o'clock. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go make bread or whatever the things that I do. And I do make bread, by the way, but and it's interesting to I think sometimes as women, we don't always share those things because we don't want to be seen as weak, or that we're not trying our hardest, or those types of things. And I remember my first year in business, and I guess I was about 6 months in, and I'm sitting at my desk 9 to 5. I was working 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5. And my husband comes in. He's like, "Babe, you're exhausted." And I'm like, I got to be here till 5." And he goes, "You don't work for anybody anymore. You don't have to be here till 5." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh, yeah.
you're right."
Give yourself some grace, right?
Right. Right.
Yeah.
But we're really hard on ourselves.
Yeah. Well, and I think so much in the beginning, because you've taken on so much and you've invested so much in yourself and your business and everything, and you need to make sure it all happens, and you take all that pressure on yourself. I
Yeah.
think, definitely that is something that weighs heavily. It still
Yeah.
weighs heavily on me, but it's something that I really had to learn to do in the beginning. And this would be another, advice for sure, is learning those boundaries.
Mm.
I kept two separate cell phones for the first, oh gosh, I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
Oh,
So
wow.
that, yeah, so that when after everything was said and done, all customers were taken care of, that one went away so that I could have some separation because I even had to change the ringtone after like 6 months because it would go off and give me so much anxiety. Like, oh no, what happened? Is there a customer complaint? Is an employee like, quitting?
Yeah.
Like, all the things would go through my head immediately. And so I had to set a different ringtone, put it after everything was done, put it away from, where it could disturb me and give myself that space to not feel the pressure of that all the time. And
Yeah.
because it's hard. You want to make sure that you did that, that you're taking care of everything, especially, for us with this, it's a big money investment
Yeah.
and fast forward, like it is our family's like primary source of income now. So, a lot of times I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta get all this done. Um, but thankfully I have a good system and support underneath me with my managers and my staff that I can depend on them for a lot now, but it takes time to build to that.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So, one of the questions that I get asked a lot is like, how did you know what to spend money on and what not to spend money on? And I would love for you to answer that question. Like a woman starts a business and, whatever, maybe she buys a franchise or maybe she starts from scratch. Like, what's your advice to those women that are starting those businesses on what to spend money on and what not to spend money on at the
Yeah.
beginning?
I probably needed that advice. Um, I would say, being a franchise system, they definitely set out for us, all the supplies that you need and, everything to run your daily operations. Uh, what I got suckered into was advertising. That was
Mm,
the, big one for me. The Maids as a company wasn't known, in the area. So I really felt like I needed to flood the market to get that brand visibility, which I did. I did need to do that. But, anybody would walk through my office and I thought it was the greatest idea ever and I better do this opportunity. And, gosh, there's probably not many things that I said no to in terms of advertising in that first year. Like I think they had me targeted as the sucker that will, do anything. And I definitely even got taken a couple of times. I think there was a one that sticks out to me is they had said that we would have an ad. It was a golf course and they would have like the logos on their scorecards or something. I never saw that scorecard with my logo on it. Like, and I went to the golf course and I was like, yeah, that's not here. And so, it wasn't, it was some company that just used them. And, so I know there was a couple opportunities where I definitely got scammed in that. Um, so I think really, knowing what your budget is for those things. And we had a very high budget for advertising. Our industry, that our franchise system recommends having
mhm.
a pretty healthy, 4 to 5% in your advertising, which is a lot of money. Um, but so, I knew that my budget was high, but I went over that all the time. Um, so I think definitely it's important to spend that money on advertising. I think that I did need to really flood the market and that was appropriate. But don't be a sucker. Make sure that you're researching it and making sure that it's a valid,
Yeah.
stream that's really going to bring you that one is actually going to happen and two that might not be wasted. We did mailers, we did magazines. I did the little, the like at Schnucks and other grocery stores when you walk in and they have the disinfecting wipes and they have little billboards on there. I did ads on those. I mean, you name it, I tried it.
It's interesting because there are some businesses that women start that are not they can't advertise, right? And they're
Mhm.
also not advertising like businesses. Like for myself, when I started, if I would have started advertising, they were going to be like, "Who is that?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And it doesn't always make sense, but I do think that a lot of times we as women can very easily say, oh my gosh, look, I need to join all these groups. Well, find the free ones first.
Yeah.
Find the free ones and start there. And then as you build your business, you can then invest in other things. And
Right.
I don't know. I just think that that's probably one of the biggest struggles of entrepreneurs in general when they first start out. They go into
Hmm.
debt
Yeah.
paying for things that they don't really need. Not
Yeah.
saying you were that person, so
I pushed it, man. No, but I think that, you have to know your industry and
hmm
what's appropriate for your industry. Like you said, for you, it's definitely networking and meeting people, but what's the most efficient way, most economical way you can do that in the beginning and building that.
Yeah.
For me, it is brand awareness. A service industry, it is brand awareness. It is Google. It is, that just becomes a bigger monster. Google and Meta like to run everything. So staying,
Yes.
having the knowledge of that and knowing how much to put there and what's, efficient with that also. That's why I hire people to do that because I cannot be a master
Yes.
of that. But um, definitely, I think, you really have, like I said, just in terms of starting a business for a woman, I think you really have to do your research and know what's all going to be involved. Definitely specific to your industry too.
And look at your monthly finance reports. Don't just because, like, well, I didn't make a lot. Well, you probably spent more than you made, which is going to be normal typically in the first 3 years of your business,
Hmm.
depending on your industry. I can't really speak for everybody, but that's typical.
Yeah.
Look at your reports, man. Like, because you might look at it and go, "Whoa, I
Yeah.
spent a lot of money on that, and that did not really yield anything for me."
Right.
Um, Being very
Yeah.
strategic.
I've kept, kind of a planner, a budget planner every year that I've had the business. And, I'm always monitoring things like on a weekly basis, but every month I go in and I fill out that planner to compare to my budget to see where we are and if, the spending's been in line and if anything needs tweaks. And I think it's a really important thing too. You always have to have a real watchful eye on that. Like you said, even like you said, people realizing, $300,000 is going out the door. Like if you're
Yeah.
keeping a good eye on your finances every month, and hopefully you catch that before you're 300,000 in the hole, right?
Right. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's true. That's so
Yeah.
true. So let's talk about leadership. Was there someone that it inspired you to be really consistent in developing your people, or like how did that come about?
I think that comes from my upbringing. Um, Honestly, I think it came from, any one boss or anything like that. I think growing up, an entrepreneur family, I had seen how my parents had taken care of their employees. And, their managers, they knew them all well. They would have parties for them that us kids would come to. We knew all the managers well. And, they had 10 stores at one point, yet they were still able to have like a company culture of taking
hmm
care of those people. Those people, knew my mom and dad's, our family, and we knew theirs. And, I still send Christmas cards to a couple of his old managers.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
I
sweet.
know. Yeah. So, I think that just having um, that upbringing of being in a family business where they did care for their employees and, did do the extra little things for something like that. It's probably something nobody thinks about that a Burger King manager was taken out to dinner or had a Christmas party, things like that, and it's important. I think it's important. And growing up, my mom was always a take care of everybody kind of person. She always stepped up to be in charge of things and always made sure that everything was taken care of, that, not only us kids, but even, our friends. It was always a welcoming house and where everybody knew they could come to my parents for help or, advice, things like that. And
hmm
I think it's just something that is important to me just to not have for my own family, but to have as part of my business too.
Yeah, I just think that it's so important for parents, especially in entrepreneurship. And I love that your parents were they were leaders. I mean, they were just leaders, that. whether they thought they were doing it or not, I don't know. But
Yeah.
that is exactly what leadership is doing the things and having people see that. It's visible. I believe that caring for the people that are your clients is so important. I base it off of three things. People want to be needed, they want to be known, and they want to be cared for. Those three things. It's so simple.
Oh,
And
I like that.
a lot of businesses just don't get it. It's just to sell, sell, sell. And when I talk to business owners that are like, I'm not this, I said, when was the last time you did a customer appreciation? Or when was the last time you made sure that you were really appreciative of them being a customer?
Yeah.
Those things are so important, and taking care of the people that you have on your staff, your employees. So I love that. That's a great story. It's a great legacy.
Yeah. I like so. Yeah.
All right, Andrea, tell me, um, trying to decide which of these questions I have down here to ask you.
What's next
I'm full of questions. What is your favorite leadership book that you've ever read? Well,
that I've ever read? Let's see. I'm trying to think of one specifically for leadership.
or if for entrepreneurs, let's say what's the greatest book you read for as an entrepreneur?
As an entrepreneur, the Slightest Edge,
Mm.
one that I read last winter, um, and it's one that has really stuck with me.
What
Um,
stuck with it? What about it stuck with you?
about just how even doing the little things steadily, the little things and how they build up over time. It
Yeah.
he takes it down to just, you're wanting to exercise more, so you go for a 5-minute walk every day, and then you make that a 7-minute walk, and you make it a 10-minute walk. So slowly you're, building that up, and you're doing everything in small bits and pieces to help them make them routines, and always just kind of one-upping. It's something I always, I'm always trying to do, and that book really helps to reflect that as, all right, so now what's the next step? How can I take this one step further?
I just call it consistency, being
Yeah.
consistent. And, I tell clients all the time, like, consistency brings clarity. Consistency brings alignment.
Mhm.
I mean, but I love that. I'm gonna have to read
Everything.
that one. I've never heard of that one.
Oh
Slightest
yeah.
Edge.
Where's the, I want to make sure I say his last name right. Jeff Olson. That's what it is.
Jeff Olson. I'm,
Yeah.
I'm a reader. I read all the time.
I it's
Audiobooks, regular books.
mine's always I always listen to books. I listen to them, especially when I'm driving around between the two offices. It's always my kind of time to pour into myself when I listen to
Yeah.
my audiobooks or podcasts.
Yeah, I like podcasts,
Yeah,
especially next to none.
that's right. I actually
You know,
like to listen to podcasts when I'm working out. I don't know why. That's
oh,
my,
interesting.
yeah, it's kind of weird. Sometimes I listen to music, but if I'm like, oh, I want to listen to that, I think it's like a good timing thing because usually when I go to the gym, it's around an hour and podcasts are typically that. So it just kind of
Yeah.
can sum it all up.
My favorite author in leadership is Patrick Lencioni. Have you read The Five Dysfunctions of a Team?
I have not, but we've talked about this. It's on my
He
list.
he just writes in fables, and it's like a story, and it makes it so he breaks down leadership and principles in a simple way for people.
Mhm.
And I would say he's probably the one that has turned me on to leadership more than anyone else. Like I know John Maxwell is,
Mhm.
leadership guru, but like
Yeah,
the way Patrick Lencioni writes it speaks to me.
I
I know
like
that
that.
sounds weird.
Stories. Yeah,
Who?
through stories. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Any parting wisdom that you think would be very beneficial to women in business?
I think I just said it is to always keep learning. I feel like if you stop learning and you stop challenging yourself, that's when you plateau. That's when you decline. And you never know it all. There's
True.
always new things to learn and new things that you can do in your business and for your business. So I just always say just keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I love to learn in general. I mean, like if I could go back to school and get my PhD and all the things, I would do it in a heartbeat. My
Yeah,
husband's like, no.
I know. I like being a student too. He thinks I'm
I,
crazy. I was
I
like,
yeah, I love it. I just love learning and I read a lot of books. Like I'd rather sit back in my bedroom at 8 o'clock at night and just read before, or sit rather than watching some TV show or whatever. And I'm super excited, like to keep my certification as a leadership coach. I have to take one class a year. And so this year I'm doing a neuroscience class. I'm super excited
oh,
about that.
that was actually my undergrad degree. How about that?
Really?
Yeah, and now I
That's
run a
very
cleaning
cool.
business. Who knows, right? But yeah.
Do you have any topics that you're like, I just want to learn about that?
Ugh. I don't I can't think of anything that jumps out of my head. No, I
That's
don't have
okay.
any. I am always
I
just
mean, like
learning about new business things, ways to refine my business and scale and grow.
I do a lot of market research on leadership in general just to see like because things trend, you know how things trend. Like,
Hmm.
by the way, leadership principles don't ever change, but there's certain things that trend, right? And
Yeah,
right now, one is relational intelligence, which is basically emotional intelligence. They're just
emotional intelligence.
renaming it
Yeah.
relational intelligence, which I mean, I do think that a lot of people don't value relational equity. And I think that that's a huge currency in any organization is that relational equity.
Mhm.
So, well, Andrea, tell us all the things, how we can follow you. If they want to have their home cleaned by you, who do they call? Who do
All
they reach
right.
out to?
Yeah. So if you want to have your home cleaned, just go to our website, www.maids.com. And hopefully, if you're listening to this, you're in the St. Charles or St. Louis area and you find me, but I'd be willing to stand behind any of the owners across the country. I know a lot of them. So, um, but yeah, just go to maids.com and put in your location and we'll take you to the right office. Um, our offices are both on Facebook and Instagram. So you can find both of them there, the Maids of St. Charles County or the Maids in St. Louis. So you can follow those and, like you said, see all the great things that people share about us and little video clips of our staff. And I'm also on LinkedIn and I would love to connect with any business owners and people in leadership roles like you and all different things like that. I love connecting with people.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you so much for being on and taking the time out of your schedule. I really appreciate it. And I know this will be invaluable to women who are either in business in general, starting a business, they're in a business, they work for somebody else. You had a lot of really great nuggets today. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I enjoy it.
Everyone, if you have not followed Andrea, you should go on LinkedIn and follow her. She's just a great person who really has invested in her staff and her employees. And you can tell because of how, like, the videos that come out, like, I jokingly was talking about those, but that is proof of her running her business well.
Thank you. I appreciate
So,
it.
see you guys next week.